Even in its current state, it still offers a glimpse into that Mughal grandeur.
It does.
Now, I want to touch on another aspect of Indo-Islamic architecture that we've seen a few times now. Water features.
Ah, yes. Water was essential in Mughal architecture.
And not just for practical purposes, right?
Right. It had aesthetic and symbolic value as well.
Okay, explain that.
Well, inspired by Persian gardens, they created these sprawling gardens that were meant to evoke a sense of paradise on Earth.
So more than just beautiful spaces.
They were symbolic representations of paradise, you could say, reflecting their beliefs about the afterlife.
It's amazing how they could imbue a garden with so much meaning. Do you have an example?
One of the most famous is the Shalimar Bagh, located in Srinagar, Kashmir.
Ah, Kashmir, often called paradise on earth. A Mughal garden in that setting must be something special.
Oh, it is. Shalimar Bagh was built by Emperor Jahangir in the early 17th century.
So a classic Mughal garden.
It's considered a masterpiece with its terraced layout, cascading fountains, and those vibrant flower beds.
I can almost hear the water cascading down the terraces.
It's a truly sensory experience.
And I bet it smells amazing with all those flowers.
It does. The garden is laid out on a gentle slope, with 3 terraces connected by a series of cascades and fountains. It creates this soothing sound and a sense of tranquility.
A real escape from the world.
You could say that. And the design is classic Mughal with those perfectly aligned walkways, flower beds, and water channels. They really loved symmetry and geometry.
It's like they were creating a microcosm of the universe, a perfectly ordered world within a world.
That's a great way to put it. And they didn't just use any plants. They chose different types of trees, flowers, and shrubs to add visual richness and symbolic meaning to the garden.
So there was a deeper meaning behind the beauty.
Exactly. The Shalimar Bagh is a testament to the Mughal appreciation for beauty, nature, and spiritual reflection.
It's a reminder that gardens can be so much more than just decorative elements.
Exactly.
Now, I want to shift gears a bit and talk about a regional style that often gets overshadowed by the grandeur of Mughal architecture. The architecture of Bengal.
Ah, yes. Bengal, a region with a rich and unique architectural heritage.
What sets it apart from other styles?
Well, for one, Bengal's architecture is a style born out of necessity. It adapted to the humid climate and embraced local influences.
So practical and beautiful. What are some of the key features?
One of the most distinctive is the use of brick. Brick was readily available in the region, and it was an ideal building material, especially in that humid environment.
That makes sense. Durable, adaptable, and it has a beautiful warm tone.
You're right. And they didn't just use brick for the walls, they incorporated it into the decorations as well.
You mean terracotta? Those intricate terracotta details are one of the things I love most about Bengali architecture.
Yes, exactly. Terracotta, that fired clay, was also readily available, and it proved to be so versatile. They could create all kinds of carvings, decorative panels, and even use it for structural elements.
It's a perfect example of how they combine beauty and practicality. And I love that reddish hue that terracotta gives to Bengali architecture. It's warm and inviting, very distinctive.
It is. And remember, terracotta is also resistant to moisture, a big plus in Bengal's humid climate.
So they were really thinking ahead. Now, did the Mughals, who ruled Bengal for a time, appreciate this unique architectural style?
They did. The Mughals actually incorporated it into their own building projects.
Another example of architectural fusion. It's amazing how the Mughals were able to adapt and blend styles.
They were masters at it. They were always willing to learn and adapt to local traditions.
Do you have an example?
A great example is the Barakatra in Dhaka.
The Barakatra.
It's a caravanserai built in the 17th century during Mughal rule.
So those roadside inns for travelers.
Exactly. And this one was quite grand, with its imposing gateway, a spacious courtyard, and numerous rooms. They were designed to accommodate large caravans of merchants and all their goods.
That sounds impressive.
It was. It was built to facilitate trade and commerce, those routes connecting India to the rest of the world.
A sign of Bengal's importance as a trading hub. What about the architecture itself?
It's a fascinating blend of Mughal and Bengali styles. You see those Mughal elements, the symmetry and geometric patterns.
Okay.
But they also use those Bengali elements, the brick and terracotta.
It must be a stunning example of that cultural exchange.
It really is. It embodies that unique blend of Mughal and Bengali styles that defines Bengal's architectural landscape.
Okay, so we've talked about these different styles, but let's focus on a structure that's central to Islamic faith.
Yeah.
The mosque. What can you tell us about the different styles of mosques found in India?
Well, you find mosques all over India, and each one reflects the architectural influences of its region and time period.
So we see the same variety that we've been talking about with the tombs and forts.
Absolutely. And we can trace the evolution of mosque architecture from simple early designs to the grand ornate mosques of the Mughal era.
It's fascinating to see how those styles developed. So where do we start?
Let's start with one of the earliest mosques built in India, the Quwwat-ul-Islam Mosque in Delhi.
Okay, the Quwwat-ul-Islam Mosque.
It's located within the Qutb Minar complex dating back to the late 12th century.
That's early. So what's so special about it?
It's known for its use of elements from pre-existing Hindu and Jain temples.
Wow, they incorporated parts of older temples into the mosque's design.
They did. It's a great example of that early fusion of styles. You see Islamic and pre-Islamic elements coming together to create something new.
It reminds us that cultural exchange has always been a part of India's history.
Exactly. And that cultural exchange is beautifully reflected in the architecture of that time.
Can you give us some examples of how they incorporated those older temple elements?
Sure. The mosque has a typical large courtyard surrounded by cloisters, but the prayer hall is actually supported by pillars and arches salvaged from nearby Hindu and Jain temples.
That's amazing. They literally reused parts of those older structures.
And you can still see the pre-Islamic carvings and motifs creating this fascinating juxtaposition of styles. It's like different layers of history coming together.
It speaks to their ingenuity and resourcefulness.
Right.
They were able to adapt and create something new while also honoring the past.
Exactly. It's a testament to their skill and vision.
Now, as the Delhi Sultanate grew in power, did the style of mosques change?
Absolutely. The mosques became grander, reflecting the Sultanate's increasing power and influence.
Okay. Do you have an example?
A great example is the Jama Masjid in Delhi.
Okay, the Jama Masjid.
Built in the 17th century by none other than Shah Jahan.
Ah, Shah Jahan,
Yeah.
the builder of the Taj Mahal. He certainly knew how to create impressive structures.
He did. And the Jama Masjid is no exception. It's one of the largest mosques in India, with a capacity for over 25,000 worshippers.
That's huge. It must be an incredible sight.
It really is. Towering minarets, grand domes, a spacious courtyard. It's all built in that classic Mughal style, using red sandstone and marble.
It sounds magnificent.
It is. And it sits on a hilltop overlooking the city, adding to its grandeur. It's like a beacon of faith, visible from all over Delhi.
It really embodies that Mughal architectural style, that love of symmetry, geometric patterns, and those intricate details.
You're exactly right.
Okay, so before we move on, I want to touch upon another type of structure that played a role in the spread of Islam in India, the tomb of a Sufi saint. Can you tell me more about that?
Sufi saints, with their emphasis on spirituality and mysticism, were instrumental in spreading Islam, especially in rural areas where those formal Islamic institutions might not have reached.
So they brought a different perspective to Islam.
Yes, you could say that. Their focus was on a personal connection with God, and that resonated with many people.
Actually.
And their tombs, often simple but elegant structures, became places of pilgrimage.
So these places drew people from different backgrounds.
Exactly. People sought solace, guidance, and blessings. They became spiritual centers.
A place of unity. Do you have an example?
One of the most famous is the tomb of Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti in Ajmer, Rajasthan.
Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti. I've heard that name. He was a key figure in spreading Islam in India, right?
He was. He arrived in India in the 12th century, and his tomb has become a testament to his legacy. People from all walks of life visit his tomb.
It's a great example of how architecture can reflect devotion and reverence.
It is, and his tomb complex is quite extensive, with courtyards, mosques, and gateways reflecting different architectural styles over the centuries.
It's almost like you can trace the history of Islamic architecture in India just by visiting that one complex.
You're right. You see influences from the early Islamic period to the Mughal era. It's a real blend of styles.
What about the tomb itself? What does it look like?
The tomb is simple yet elegant, with a white marble dome and intricate jollywork that allows light to filter into the inner chamber.
So serene and peaceful.
It is, and it's located right in the middle of a bustling city.
That's interesting. Why is that significant?
Well, it reflects the Sufi belief in engaging with the world, spreading messages of love and tolerance.
So it's not about retreating from the world, but about being a part of it.
Exactly.
Okay, now let's talk about a tomb that's often seen as the precursor to the Taj Mahal, Humayun's tomb.
Ah, yes, Humayun's tomb. a pivotal structure in Mughal architecture.
It's located in Delhi, right?
Yes, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's often called the architectural stepping stone to the Taj Mahal.
So it was a real turning point in Mughal architecture.
You could say that. It was built in the mid-16th century by Humayun's widow, Haji Begum. It's very different from those earlier Lodi dynasty tombs.
In what way?
It introduced new elements and design principles that we see later in the Taj Mahal.
So it was a bridge between those earlier styles and the later Mughal masterpieces.
Exactly. One of the things that makes Humayun's tomb stand out is that it's set in a charbo garden.
Ah, yes. The Charbagh Garden. We've talked about that before.
It was a common feature in Mughal architecture. Remember, the Taj Mahal is also set within a charbo garden.
I do. That formal garden divided into 4 quadrants with those walkways and water channels.
It was inspired by Persian gardens, and it reflected the Mughals' love of symmetry, order, and harmony. It was a symbolic representation of paradise.
So the tomb sits at the center of this paradise garden.
Exactly. And the tomb itself is a double-domed structure built with red sandstone and white marble.
There's that classic Mughal combination again.
Yes. The design is a masterpiece of symmetry and proportion, with its octagonal plan, arched alcoves, and that intricate jali work.
And that double dome, it's a real hallmark of Mughal architecture, isn't it?
It is. The inner dome is the structural one, and the outer dome is mainly decorative.
A perfect blend of form and function.
You could say that. And the inside of the tomb is just as impressive. High ceilings, beautiful plasterwork, and the cenotaph of Humayun sits right at the center of the chamber.
It sounds like a fitting tribute to a Mughal emperor.
It is. Humayun's tomb, with its innovative design and craftsmanship, really paved the way for later Mughal mausoleums, especially the Taj Mahal.
A real turning point in architectural history. Now let's journey back to the Deccan, a region full of architectural surprises.
You're right about that. The Deccan, with its various kingdoms and cultural influences, developed a unique architectural style that often blends Islamic, Hindu, and local elements.
So it's a region where we see architectural fusion at its best.
You could say that.
And what structure best exemplifies this Deccani architectural style?
One of the most iconic is the Charminar, located in Hyderabad, Telangana.
Ah, the Charminar, that magnificent structure with the 4 minarets. I've seen pictures.
That's the one. Built in the late 16th century, it's considered a symbol of Hyderabad's rich history and heritage.
And its name, meaning 4 minarets, is very descriptive. Those 4 minarets really stand out.
They do. Each minaret is over 180 feet tall. They're a real testament to the Qutbi Shahi dynasty's architectural ambition.
They really dominate the skyline.
And if you look closer, you'll see that blend of Islamic and Hindu architectural elements.
So we see that cultural fusion again.
Exactly. The Charminar is a great example of how Islamic architectural elements interacted with local traditions to create something new.
It's like a visual representation of the cultural diversity of the Deccan, isn't it?
That's a great way to put it. It's a testament to those diverse cultural influences. You see Islamic arches and domes alongside those Hindu decorative motifs, and some elements even resemble Hindu temples.
A true blend of styles. What else can you tell me about the Charminar?
It wasn't just a monument. It actually served several purposes.
Really? Like what?
Well, it was a mosque, of course, but it was also a gateway to the city, a watchtower, and a center for cultural events.
Wow, a real multifunctional structure.
It really highlights the ingenuity and flexibility of Deccani architecture, and it's beautifully decorated.
What kind of decorations?
Intricate stucco work, delicate jolly screens, and those colorful tile decorations.
It sounds like a feast for the eyes.
It is, and it's
Oh.
located right in the heart of the old city, so it's a focal point for everyone.
Now, as we continue our exploration, I want to talk more about gardens, a key element in so many Indo-Islamic structures.
Gardens were incredibly important to the Mughals, both aesthetically and symbolically.
We talked about the Charbagh gardens, those formal gardens associated with tombs.
Right, but gardens went beyond just being decorative. They were inspired by Persian garden traditions and were meant to evoke a sense of paradise on earth.
So they were almost like a spiritual oasis.
Exactly. They created these miniature paradises, reflecting their vision of the afterlife and showcasing their love for order and harmony.
It's incredible how they could create so much meaning within a garden.
It is, and a great example of this is the Shalimar Bagh in Srinagar, Kashmir.
Ah, Kashmir. A Mughal garden in a region that's already known for its natural beauty.
It's truly spectacular. Shalimar Bagh was built in the early 17th century by Emperor Jahangir. It's a masterpiece of Mughal garden design.
Tell me more about it.
Well, it has a terrace layout, cascading fountains, and those vibrant flower beds you mentioned earlier.
I can just imagine how beautiful it must be with the sounds of water and the scents of all those flowers.
It's designed to be a feast for the senses. It's laid out on a gentle slope, with those three terraces connected by cascades and fountains.
It sounds so peaceful and serene.
It is, and the design is classic Mughal. Those perfectly aligned walkways, flower beds, and water channels, they were masters of symmetry and geometry.
It's like they were recreating the perfect order of the universe.
And remember, they carefully chose specific types of trees, flowers, and shrubs, adding to the visual richness and symbolism of the garden.
It's amazing how they could pack so much meaning into every detail.
The Shalimar Bagh truly exemplifies the Mughals' appreciation for beauty, nature, and that connection to the divine.
It's a reminder that gardens can be so much more than just places of beauty.
Exactly.
Well, as we come to the end of our exploration of Indo-Islamic architecture, I'm just struck by the incredible diversity and artistry we've seen.
We've only just scratched the surface, really. There's so much more to explore.
From those Mughal forts and palaces to the simplicity of Sufi shrines, it's clear that this architectural style represents the creativity, the ingenuity, and the spirituality of the people who created it.
And it's constantly evolving, adapting, incorporating new influences, much like India itself, you could say.
That's a great point. And what I find so fascinating is that sense of fusion, that blend of Islamic and Indian traditions, the use of regional styles and local materials. It's a testament to the power of cultural exchange.
You've summed it up perfectly. Indo-Islamic architecture is a reminder that beauty can be found in the most unexpected places, and that beauty often emerges from those places where different cultures and styles meet and interact.
We encourage our listeners to continue exploring this fascinating architectural style.
Yes, go see these structures in person, experience them firsthand.
Step into those spaces, observe those incredible details, and let your imagination travel back in time.
Because within these walls, you'll find more than just bricks and mortar.
You'll find echoes of history, whispers of faith, and a reminder that beauty can emerge from embracing diversity.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through the world of Indo-Islamic architecture. We hope you've enjoyed it. It's truly a remarkable structure.
They really do make a statement.
Each minaret is over 180 feet tall, a real showcase of the Qutb Shahi dynasty's ambition.
And their engineering skills, too. But you mentioned something earlier about the Charminar's design. Something about a blend of Islamic and Hindu elements.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about Islamic influences. It's about how those influences interacted with existing traditions to create something new.
So a fusion of styles, just like we've been seeing throughout Indo-Islamic architecture.
Precisely. The Charminar really embodies the diverse cultural influences of the Deccan.
Tell me more about that.
You see those Islamic arches and domes, but then right alongside them you have Hindu decorative motifs.
So they're not shying away from those pre-existing traditions.
Not at all. They're embracing them, blending them, creating something unique. Some elements even resemble Hindu temples.
It's like a physical representation of the Deccan's cultural tapestry.
Exactly. And the Charminar wasn't just a monument.
It wasn't.
It served many purposes. It was a mosque, of course, but also a gateway to the city, a watchtower.
Okay, I see. A practical function.
And even a center for cultural events.
Wow, so much happening in one structure.
It's really incredible.
Beautifully decorated too, isn't it?
It is. The stucco work is intricate. There are those delicate jali screens, and the Kyle decorations are so colorful.
A real feast for the eyes. And it's right in the heart of the old city.
It is. A focal point for everyone.
Now, as we move forward, I want to talk more about gardens, which seem to play a vital role in Indo-Islamic architecture.
Gardens. There were so much more than just decorative elements for the Mughals.
We've talked about Charbagh gardens at tombs, like the Taj Mahal and Humayun's tomb.
Right. Those formal gardens divided into 4 quadrants. But they held deep symbolic and spiritual meaning.
More than just aesthetics.
They were inspired by Persian garden traditions meant to evoke paradise on earth.
I see, creating those symbolic representations of the afterlife.
Exactly. Microcosms of the universe, showcasing order and harmony.
It's fascinating how much meaning they could imbue in a garden. Can you give us an example?
One of the most famous Mughal gardens is Shalimar Bagh in Srinagar, Kashmir.
Kashmir, paradise on earth. A Mughal garden in that setting must be incredible.
It truly is. Built by Jahangir in the early 17th century, it's a masterpiece of garden design.
What makes it so special?
Its terraced layout, the cascading fountains, those vibrant flower beds.
I can almost picture it. The sound of water, the scent of flowers.
It's truly a sensory experience.
A place to escape the world.
The garden is laid out on a gentle slope. 3 terraces, connected by those cascades and fountains. It creates a sense of tranquility, of movement.
And the design is classic Mughal, isn't it? All those perfectly aligned elements.
It is. Those walkways, flower beds, and water channels, all showcasing their love of symmetry and geometry.
It's like they were trying to recreate that perfect order we see in nature.
And the plants weren't chosen randomly. Different trees, flowers, shrubs, each adding to the visual richness and symbolic meaning.
So it wasn't just about creating a pretty space.
No, it was about reflecting deeper principles. Shalimar Bagh is a perfect example of that Mughal appreciation for beauty, nature, and spiritual reflection.
A place to lose yourself in that tranquility. Well, as we wrap up our deep dive, I'm in awe of everything we've seen.
Me too. It's been quite a journey. And remember, we've only just touched on the highlights. There's so much more to discover.
From those grand Mughal structures to the simplicity of Sufi shrines, Indo-Islamic architecture truly showcases a unique blend of creativity, ingenuity, and spirituality.
It's a style that's always evolving, always adapting, just like India itself.
I think that's what struck me the most, that sense of fusion, that blend of Islamic and Indian elements, the use of local materials, all those regional styles. It speaks to the power of cultural exchange.
Absolutely. Indo-Islamic architecture is a reminder that beauty can come from unexpected places, from those interactions between different cultures and styles.
And we encourage everyone to explore these architectural wonders for themselves.
Go see them in person, step inside those spaces, look closely at the details, and let your imagination take you back in time.
Because within those walls, you'll find echoes of history, whispers of faith, and a reminder that embracing diversity can lead to incredible beauty.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you. Thank you for joining us.